The first whisper didn't come from diplomats, war analysts, or planetary defense officers. It came from a lone cargo pilot drifting through the quiet shipping lanes near the Perseus Fringe. His voice, usually bored and half-drunk on recycled caffeine vapors, trembled as he made his emergency broadcast. He said he'd seen something, no, felt something, sliding out of the dark between two nebula filaments. At first, Command dismissed it. Haulers were notorious for hallucinating off long-haul monotony. But then the pilot's final transmission came through, crackling with static, as if the void itself were crushing the signal. 3 of them, no markings, no stars behind them. It's like the night itself is moving. And then nothing. The message severed mid-breath, mid-thought, as though the universe had swallowed both pilot and ship in one silent gulp. Within hours, more reports followed. Miners in the asteroid belts spoke of colossal shadows passing across their rigs, eclipsing suns that should not have been eclipsed. Automated listening posts caught faint gravitational ripples, phenomena that suggested masses the size of capital dreadnoughts, but with no detectable propulsion signatures. A lone Zothary patrol vessel attempted to investigate one of the anomalies. The ship's logs ended with a single, deeply unsettling note from its captain. "It's absorbing our scans. The hull, it's absorbing everything." After that, its beacon went dark. Debris was never recovered. Fear spread faster than any fleet. In the councils of the Kresh Empire, senior strategists argued in frantic circles, their spined crests quivering as they reviewed footage of something enormous blotting out an entire starfield. The Vorin warrior tribes, proud and unshakable, began evacuating outer worlds without waiting for confirmation. Even the machine minds of the Talon Collective, beings who prided themselves on logic and probability, processed the incoming data and declared a rare system-wide threat alert, an action reserved for extinction-level scenarios. Whispers became panic. Panic became legend. And soon, legend became a single name spoken with dread across every world. Black ships. Not for their color, though they were darker than void. Not for their technology, though no species could comprehend it. But because they erased the stars behind them as they passed, devouring light, bending space, leaving only emptiness in their wake. Entire fleets vanished. Outposts reduced to drifting ash without heat signatures or impact marks. Defense satellites recorded glimpses only when the ships wanted to be seen, just long enough to seed terror before vanishing again. Every alien Senate hall echoed with the same desperate question. Who commands these vessels? Who unleashes them? What do they want? No empire claimed responsibility. No broadcasts followed their appearances. No demands were issued. No ultimatums. Just the silent, inevitable drifting of monolithic shadows between worlds. They never fired first. They never spoke. They simply appeared, and those who threatened the fragile balance of the galaxy disappeared soon after. Conspiracy theorists spoke of ancient species older than the stars. Priests claimed divine avatars had returned to judge the wicked. Militaries feared it was a breakaway, hyper-advanced faction preparing for conquest. But beneath all the speculation, beneath the fear and superstition, lay a deeper truth, one almost entirely forgotten by a galaxy that chose convenience over memory, arrogance over humility. Because the black ships had appeared once before, long ago, in a time when the galaxy believed itself unchallenged. In an era when it decided, with cold calculation, that humanity, primitive, stubborn, inconvenient humanity, was expendable. The First Purge War had nearly extinguished Earth. Billions died, cities burned, oceans boiled. And in the aftermath, As humanity clawed its way back from ashes and ruin, it forged something terrible, something necessary, something unforgettable. Something the galaxy should have remembered. Something forged from loss, vengeance, and the unbreakable promise that humanity would never again be threatened with extinction. The black ships had not appeared out of nowhere. They had returned. And the universe, for all its ignorance, knew exactly why it feared them. The first of the great councils to break under the pressure was the Alliance of 12. Their chamber, usually a grand display of wealth, with crystalline walls and shimmering stellar projections, had devolved into chaos. Representatives shouted over one another as they replayed the same haunting footage, three black silhouettes coasting through a system whose suns flickered and dimmed as if bowing in submission. A dozen analysts insisted the phenomenon was impossible. A dozen more insisted it was deliberate. And when the footage showed one of the silhouettes accelerate, without igniting engines, without disturbing space, without any visible means of thrust, the chamber erupted into primal fear. Entire species with millennia of calm diplomatic decorum reverted to instinct. Claws drummed on tables, mandibles clicked anxiously, tendrils coiled and uncoiled. The Zia Dominion, long accustomed to projecting dominance across the galactic core, was next to crumble. High Chancellor Vratak watched planetary defense grids crumble to static as the black ships drifted through system after system, not attacking, not communicating, simply observing. On the third day, Vratak received a secret intelligence summary so classified that even reading it required a retinal burn authorization. He opened it. He read one sentence. Then he ordered all ambassadors recalled, all border fleets regrouped, all citizens to shelters. His aides pressed him for explanation, but he answered only once, his voice thinned by terror. We have awakened something we buried, something that never forgives. Across the galaxy, panic turned feral. Refugee caravans clogged jump gates. Merchant guilds shut down interstellar highways. Even pirate clans fled deeper into uncharted nebula clouds, hoping the shadows would lose interest. Entire civilizations held their breath as rumors swirled like storms. The black ships were omens of doom, harbingers of an extinction-level judgment no empire could escape. But amid all the hysteria, one entity remained unnervingly calm. The Talon Collective. Machines built to quantify risk evaluated trillions of scenarios. Their processors calculated movements, patterns, intervals, and absences. And the collective reached a conclusion none wished to hear. It was not a message broadcast to the wider galactic network. It was a whisper traded among high AI constructs, bound by protocols older than most species themselves. The vessels originate from Sol, human design, upgraded, evolved. The words spread quietly among those with enough influence or power to access forbidden archives. In their deepest vaults, old war records had not been erased, only sealed. They contained images, grainy and half-corrupted, of black silhouettes raining fire upon fleets that outnumbered them 1,000 to 1. Ships that moved like thoughts, not machines. Vessels whose hulls mutated to absorb kinetic force, whose weapons bent physics until physics screamed. In those ancient files, the Terran Armada was shown not as a defensive force, but as a punisher, unleashed only when the galaxy attempted to erase the species that birthed it. But this time, something was different. This time, no human diplomats arrived, no Terran soldiers marched, no transmissions came from Earth. And that was the detail that chilled every observer to their core. Humanity itself was silent. Not absent, not dead, just silent, as if waiting, watching through the eyes of their creations, letting fear ferment, letting nations tremble, letting the galaxy wonder what line had been crossed. What few understood, what even fewer dared to admit, was that the black ships did not emerge spontaneously. They moved only in response to provocation, to threats large enough to stir something ancient and ferocious in the human spirit. And 3 months ago, a coalition of empires, notably the proud Krell sovereignty and the expansionist Zyre dominion, had quietly proposed a plan to secure the galactic core by neutralizing unpredictable rogue elements. A plan that included wiping out the remaining Terran colonies on the outer spiral arms before humanity could reassert its historical hostility. They believed humanity weakened, isolated, declining in numbers. Their strike teams never reported back. Their drones vanished. Their fleets disappeared into silence. And now the black ships answered, not with diplomacy, not with retaliation, but with presence. A terrifying, unmistakable presence that declared, "We see you." The galaxy, with all its empires and armies, suddenly remembered a truth it had spent centuries burying under treaties and propaganda. Humanity did not threaten. Humanity did not boast. Humanity did not warn. Humanity simply acted. And somewhere deep in the void, beyond sensor range, beyond the chatter of terrified civilizations, beyond the lies told to maintain political stability, a single truth pulsed like a heartbeat in the dark. The black ships were not the danger. They were merely the first sign that the real danger was waking up. The first direct encounter did not happen on a battlefield. It did not happen near a border, a fortress world, or a military post. It happened in the most unexpected place, the Krell sovereignty's capital world, Zathar Prime, at the height of its annual Conquest Festival. Billions attended, war banners unfurled, holograms of past victories shimmered across the sky. The Krell, proud reptilian conquerors, celebrated the centuries-long myth that they alone kept the galaxy in balance, that their aggression contained lesser species, as their propaganda proclaimed. When the anomaly appeared above the festival grounds, the crowd assumed it was part of the show. A ripple in the air, a dark lens forming without heat or sound. Children hissed with delight. Veterans watched with narrowed eyes, recognizing something far too precise to be theatrics. The air folded inward, space dented, shadows sharpened as though terrified to touch the distortion. And then, from the impossible tear, a black crescent glided through, silent as breath, smooth as obsidian, poured into the shape of a nightmare. Panic detonated across the city. Troops scrambled, sirens howled, anti-air batteries locked on and fired without waiting for authorization. Thousands of plasma bolts streaked through the sky, only to vanish meters from the ship's hull, absorbed by a shimmering distortion barrier that barely flickered in acknowledgement. The black vessel drifted down, not attacking, not responding, merely arriving. It cast no light, it emitted no engine signature. It felt less like a starship and more like a presence, a decision, a sentence already passed. On the palace balcony, Supreme Commander Trelvar watched with quivering tendrils. He had reviewed the ancient Soul War files. He had seen what Terran vessels once did to fleets much stronger than his. And yet, even those files had not shown ships like this. Ships that seemed to drink the starlight around them. Ships that felt alive. Ships that whispered purpose. His advisors begged him to retreat to the deep vaults. Instead, Trelvar activated the planet-wide alarm and issued a single order, one that shocked every Krell soldier hearing it. "Do not fire again." But his order came too late. The sovereignty's elite air guard, overzealous, terrified, loyal to their warrior code, launched a barrage of hypervelocity missiles. They struck the vessel head-on. They detonated with the force of a collapsing moon. The sky burned white, then cleared instantly. The ship remained untouched. Not a scratch, not a scorch mark, not even vapor trails. For a long moment, the entire planet fell silent, billions staring at a vessel that had just swallowed the firepower of an entire defense grid. And then it moved. Not with engines, not with thrusters. It simply shifted, as though intention alone dictated physics. A thin beam of dark blue light extended, not toward the city, but toward the palace balcony. It touched down at Trelvar's feet and expanded into a circular field, an invitation, or a warning. The commander's guards tried to pull him back, but he stepped forward. His species believed in honor, in meeting doom head-on, in not flinching when the gods judged. The beam swallowed him, reality inverted, and in less than a blink, he reappeared aboard the black ship. A chamber unlike anything in the galaxy awaited him. Walls fluid as oil, floors that reflected not the present but echoes of memory, images of soldiers dying, colonies burning, betrayals carried out in secret. Trelvar staggered as the chamber projected scenes he had hoped would never see daylight. The failed extermination strike against the Terran outposts. The slaughter of unarmed human refugees fleeing the Galactic Rim. The execution order he had personally signed. And then a voice spoke. Not human, not synthetic, something in between. Calm, neutral, ancient. You broke the pact. Trelvar spun, searching for the speaker. The chamber darkened except for a silhouette forming from drifting particles of midnight blue. Humanoid in shape, human in posture, but not human. A ghost of something long dormant, a memory carved into sentience. It stepped closer. The truce of Saul was not a suggestion. It was not a courtesy. It was the only thing keeping the galaxy alive. The commander bared his fangs. Why do humans not face us themselves? Why send ghosts? The figure answered without hesitation. Humanity does not come when threatened. Humanity comes when necessary, and they deemed you unworthy of their arrival. The words hit harder than any weapon. Humanity had judged them and found them beneath notice. The chamber expanded, revealing star maps shifting and warping, lines of possibility collapsing into singular outcomes. The black ship itself hummed as if reacting to the dialogue. The figure raised a hand and pointed at one glowing system, the Krell home cluster. The stars dimmed. Their light flickered in the projection. This is your future if you continue. Trelvar fell to his knees. What are you? The figure leaned close, its eyes like deep wells of extinguished suns. We are the Echo Fleet, the guardians of the silent oath. We act when humans choose not to waste their breath. And then the projection vanished. The chamber dissolved. Trelvar found himself back on the palace balcony, surrounded by terrified guards. The black ship had risen, drifting upward through the atmosphere. No weapons fired, no threats issued, no ultimatum broadcast. And yet every Krell across the planet felt the same icy certainty. This was not mercy. This was not forgiveness. This was a warning they would not receive a second time. The warning delivered on Zathor Prime should have been enough. It should have halted every empire's ambitions, silenced every border skirmish, dissolved every council meeting into trembling compliance. But the galaxy was too fractured, too arrogant, too entrenched in its own mythologies to accept the truth. The Krell sovereignty, shaken but not shattered, attempted to bury the incident. The Zyre Dominion insisted the footage was fabricated. The Alliance of 12 declared it a psychological operation meant to destabilize galactic unity. Denial, as always, was easier than admitting fear, but the black ships were already moving. Their next appearance was not dramatic. There was no festival, no public spectacle. It happened on the fringes of civilized space, where a small strike force from the Dominion had gathered in secret. Their mission was simple: track the black ships, record their capabilities, and, if possible, capture one. The fleet's admiral, Vorksal, had built his reputation on two beliefs: that fear was a weakness, and that humanity was a myth exaggerated by primitive species who needed legends to justify their failures. He was an arrogant, brutal tactician who saw the black ships not as a threat, but as an opportunity. "If they bleed," he told his commanders, "we will find a way to gut them." But the black ships did not bleed. They did not fear. They did not react to provocation the way mortals expected. The Dominion fleet hid in the shadow of a dark nebula, their hulls coated with cloaking dust mined from the neutron storms. Silent, invisible, waiting. The admiral stood on the command deck, mandibles flexing with anticipation. Around him, officers scurried, calibrating gravimetric sensors and compressing data cores. A trap laid with precision, one he believed would earn him eternal glory. Then the temperature in the command deck dropped. Not physically, no sensors detected a change, but every living creature felt it. A crawling cold along the spine, a buzzing under the skin, instinct screaming at them to flee. Moments later, 3 black silhouettes appeared outside the nebula. They did not decloak or emerge. They simply were, as if the galaxy had blinked and forgotten they hadn't been there a moment before. No jump signature, no warp distortion, no detectable entry point. The admiral snarled, "Hold positions. They do not know we are here." But they did. The nearest black ship shifted, its hull rippling like ink disturbed by raindrops. Patterns formed, symbols or languages unrecognizable to any Dominion translator. The symbols pulsed once, and every cloaking field in the hidden fleet failed instantly. Entire destroyers flickered into visibility like insects caught under a lamp. The admiral roared for an attack, but the order died in his throat when the black ship's hull opened. Not a hatch, not a door. It unfolded. A silent bloom of shifting geometric plates, creating a circular aperture that looked less like engineering and more like a living organism choosing to expose an eye. What emerged was not a weapon, at least not one the Dominion could comprehend. A filament of darkness extended, thin as a needle and long as a warship. It drifted lazily toward the nearest destroyer. The destroyer fired every weapon it had: plasma cannons, kinetic rails, fusion torpedoes. The space between the ships ignited with enough fury to atomize a moon. But as the fire faded, every bolt, every shell, every explosion simply dissolved against the filament, absorbed like raindrops falling into a black ocean. The filament touched the destroyer, and the destroyer, one of the Dominion's most advanced war vessels, disintegrated into dust. No explosion, no debris, Just a soft gray cloud drifting where a warship had once existed. The admiral screamed to retreat. Engines roared. Navigation officers scrambled to plot emergency jumps. But the space around them thickened like invisible tar pulling on their hulls. Thrusters strained, energy cores overloaded. Some ships ripped themselves apart trying to escape the unseen grip. Others simply froze, helpless as the black ships glided between them. One of the black vessels sent a pulse of sound, a low, resonant hum felt rather than heard. The admiral collapsed. Officers screamed. Screens shattered. The hum echoed through bone and metal alike, a sound that carried meaning not through language but through terror. An ancient, primal warning. Children of violence, lay down your teeth. The admiral tried to rise. His limbs refused. In his final moments, he saw something he could not comprehend. The black ship's aperture widened again, revealing a shifting interior filled with silhouettes, humanoid but distorted, blurred, as if existing in multiple states at once. Some wore armor. Some looked like flickering memories. Some were nothing but outlines filled with stars. The Echo Fleet was showing him its crew. Not humans. Not machines. Something else. Something humanity had built or awakened. Something that carried their will without needing their presence. The admiral understood then why the Truce of Sol had always been obeyed, even during times when humans seemed weak. It wasn't weakness, it was restraint, mercy, a decision the galaxy had mistaken for vulnerability. The hum deepened. The admiral's vision dimmed. And as his consciousness faded, he saw the true terror. Not the destruction of his fleet, not the impossible technology, but the emotion behind it. The Echo Fleet was not angry. It was disappointed. When the Dominion's distress beacon eventually activated on its own, long after every crew member had dissolved into dust, the rest of the galaxy realized something horrible. The Echo Fleet did not destroy out of wrath. They destroyed out of principle. And nothing was more dangerous than a force that killed without hatred. For a long, trembling moment, the galaxy watched in absolute silence as the storm curtain of the black ships unfurled across the void. Not metaphorical darkness, true absence, a null of light so complete it seemed to swallow even the sensor readings that attempted to measure it. The fleets of the Karth Dominion, once bold enough to raid human colonies with laughter in their throats, now floated motionless as the shadows of those vessels spread over them like an eclipse. No weapons fired. No threats were broadcast. No ultimatums were declared. Humanity didn't need theatrics. Their presence alone was a sentence, and the aliens knew it. Every ship that had ever survived an encounter with the black ships, very few, extremely lucky, had spoken of the same thing, the moment when the human vessels moved. That first impossible shift in gravity around them that made the metal of nearby hulls creak as though the void itself was bending to their will. Admirals claimed their navigational data glitched or their visions blurred. Some said they felt pressure behind their eyes, as if something enormous was staring directly into their minds. Whether superstition or truth, none dared challenge it now. The lead black ship advanced, not through thrusters, not through warp, but through a method no alien had ever understood. Space seemed to rearrange itself, allowing the vessel to drift forward without propulsion, like a nightmare sliding across a dream. It dwarfed every Dominion warship. Its obsidian hull reflected nothing. Stars disappeared behind it, swallowed whole. The Karth commander, Jurak Kai, forced himself to breathe as a low vibration rolled through his ship, not from any weapon impact, but from the psychic weight of terror passing through his crew. The humans had no interest in negotiation. They had come only to make a point. And when they acted, it was mercilessly precise. Lines of invisible force snapped across the battlefield, silent, clean, instantaneous. Dominion cruisers folded in half as if grasped by the fists of invisible gods. Frigates compacted into dense cubes of crushed alloy. Capital ships crackled with internal shattering as their reactors were pinched into artificial singularities, collapsing in on themselves without explosion. The black ships didn't simply destroy, they erased. 100 vessels vanished in seconds, swallowed by gravitational distortions so controlled, so scalpel-sharp, that not even debris was left behind. Panic surged across the alien command channels. Some ships tried to flee, only to find space itself twisting, returning them to the battlefield like children dragged back by the collar. Others attempted to fire, their weapons detonating harmlessly against an unseen barrier of warped reality. No human appeared on comms, no demands were sent. Dominion ships were dismantled as if the black ships were bored of their resistance. Human commanders watched silently, issuing no orders beyond confirmation sweeps. They were calm, cold, focused. And yet, beneath that steel, there was something far deeper. A memory of loss, of colonies burned, of families taken. The black ships were not humanity's frontline fleet. They were something older, something born in the shadows of Earth's darkest moments. Their creation was not a response to mere war, but to genocide. The day the Karth Dominion had first attacked a human world, they had chosen a target that never fought back, a world of artists, scientists, and children. Humanity did not forget. They built the black ships so they would never have to forgive. On the battlefield now, the final Dominion dreadnought hovered alone, trembling in the pull of the black ship flotilla. Instead of destroying it instantly, the lead vessel drifted close, so close its shadow blanketed the dreadnought like a burial shroud. For the first time, a transmission came through, a whisper-like voice, cold and devoid of emotion. You knew what you were doing, and now you know the cost. The dreadnought imploded inward, collapsing silently like a dying star. At last, the black ships stilled. The void fell quiet again. Of the Dominion's invasion armada, nothing remained. No bodies, no wreckage. Just the echo of annihilation drifting on background radiation. The black ships turned in unison and slipped away, disappearing back into folds of warped gravity until the stars shone unobstructed once more. And across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity did not start wars, but they ended them with finality. That was why the aliens feared the black ships. Not because they were powerful, or mysterious, or unstoppable, but because when humanity built something in the dark, it meant they had been pushed too far. And when humanity was pushed too far, the stars themselves trembled.